What if the most powerful shield against life's invisible battles weren't something new, but something ancient? Imagine for a moment that the true spiritual protection your soul longs for isn't found in the modern, nor in what the world invented recently, but in forgotten words spoken centuries ago, still resonating with the same force with which they were released into the universe. For generations, these prayers were whispered in temples, in deserts, in humble homes and grand palaces. Some survived, others were buried under the dust of history, and others hid in plain sight. Today, you are about to rediscover them. Today, a forgotten truth returns to clothe you with an invisible shield, a spiritual weapon that will give you strength, direction, and protection against everything that threatens your peace. Before continuing with this powerful revelation, I want you to declare with your mouth and write in the comments, "I believe in God's infinite abundance. My whole family and I are blessed, and we will never lack anything. Thank you." Write that declaration right now, because your words have power, and this act not only opens your heart, but activates the invisible promise God has already prepared for you. Now more than ever, we live surrounded by invisible battles: anxiety, fear, stress, insecurity, thoughts that steal our energy. Modern society has given us superficial tools, distractions, empty advice, fleeting techniques that soothe for a moment but never truly protect. It's like walking with a shield made of glass. It looks strong, but a single blow shatters it into 1,000 pieces. Scripture itself warned us, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly." John 10:10. That invisible thief manifests in negative thoughts, in inner struggles, in trials that seem impossible to overcome. But here is the secret. Centuries ago, men and women learned to protect themselves not with visible weapons, but with words of power. Words that pierced the heavens, that raised invisible walls, that brought calm in the midst of storms. Ancient prayers. A forgotten truth. A legacy that returns to your hands today. Imagine a priest in ancient Israel lifting his hands as he says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace." Numbers 6:24-26. These words were not a simple blessing. They were a shield, an invisible armor over the entire people. Or imagine a Celtic father lighting a fire at dawn, speaking words of protection before his son went out to the fields. Or a Sumerian traveler invoking ancestral words so that the night would not catch him with spirits of fear. Do you see the pattern? In every culture, in every era, people knew there was power in words, not just any words, but those that invoked the eternal, the divine, what transcends the human. And that power remains intact. On the walls of ancient temples, on clay tablets, on papyri worn by time, we find traces of words that were not mere symbols. They were cries for protection. The Sumerians, one of the oldest civilizations, wrote incantations to shield themselves from the invisible. They were brief phrases, repeated like a constant murmur, asking for covering from what they could not see. It was not superstition, but a deep conviction that the invisible governs the visible. The Celts, in their forests, lifted blessings at daybreak. Their prayers were poetic, invoking light as a shield against darkness, fire as a barrier against evil, water as continual purification. And centuries later, among the first followers of God, even more powerful phrases appear. The Apostle Paul declared firmly, "Put on the whole armor of God, so that you may stand firm against the schemes of the enemy. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age. Ephesians 6:11-12. Do you notice how striking that is? The struggle wasn't against people, but against invisible forces. And for that struggle, iron and sword were not enough. Prayer was required. That's why one of the most powerful prayers passed down from generation to generation was Psalm 91. Listen. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to God, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. He will deliver you from the fowler's snare, from the destructive plague. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will be safe. These words were not just poetry. They were a spiritual shield. They were spoken by families, soldiers, travelers, by anyone who knew they were exposed to invisible dangers. Today, thousands of years later, those same words still carry the same power. But what made these prayers so powerful? They weren't magic formulas. They weren't empty repetitions. Their strength rested on 3 pillars. The invocation of the eternal. They were not addressed to objects or symbols, but to God himself, the source of all. When the human voice connects with heaven, something happens. The power of the word, the Bible itself teaches, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. When you declare words of protection, you create an invisible wall around you. The psychological and spiritual impact. These prayers not only protected the spirit, they strengthened the mind. The one who prayed let go of fear and embraced confidence. The one who repeated these phrases was filled with hope and inner strength. It was like putting on invisible armor, a shield not seen with the eyes but felt in the heart. And here I want to pause for something very important. If this message is touching your spirit, hit like right now and subscribe to the channel. Every time you do this, you not only support this content, you declare through action that you want to open the doors to the blessings God has for you. Don't let it pass you by. Do it now and continue with me on this journey. I want you to participate actively right now. We're going to revive together an ancestral prayer of protection, taking as our base Psalm 23, which has so often been used as a shield in times of fear. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Close your eyes for a moment as you hear this. Imagine that shadow of fear, of anxiety, of problems. Now listen to how these words raise a wall around you. No matter what shadow tries to approach, it cannot touch you, because there is a rod that guides you, and a staff that upholds you. This is what ancient generations did. They spoke these phrases in faith, and that faith became an invisible fire that drove away everything that sought to destroy them. Today, you can do the same. But it's not enough to hear these words once and forget them. True transformation happens when you make them part of your daily life. How? Begin your day with a prayer of protection. Upon waking, say, God, thank you, because today you cover me with your wings, and no evil will touch me. That simple phrase every morning is a shield. Declare it in your moments of fear. When something unsettles you, respond with words of faith. For example, though the storm roars, my heart is steady because you are my refuge. End your day by placing everything in God's hands. Before sleeping, say aloud, tonight I rest under your protection. I lack nothing and nothing will harm me. Doing this every day isn't empty routine. It's reprogramming your mind, your heart, and your spirit to walk protected in a world full of shadows. History repeats itself again and again. When someone recovers the ancient prayers, their life changes. A soldier in antiquity could walk to battle with fear in his heart. But before lifting the sword, he would raise a prayer. God is my strength. I will not fear what man can do to me. And suddenly, something changed inside him. He no longer walked in fear, but in firmness. Today, centuries later, the setting is different. We no longer face armies with iron weapons, but thoughts that seek to destroy our faith. News that tries to fill us with terror. Problems that seem impossible to solve. But the principle is the same. Prayer protects. Not long ago, a mother shared with me how, after teaching her child to repeat Psalm 91 before sleeping, the nighttime anxiety disappeared. The child no longer had nightmares. His rest became deep. Another man confessed to me that by reciting daily, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" Psalm 27:1. He overcame panic attacks that had tormented him for years. Do you see it? These ancient prayers are not historical relics. They are living tools, as current today as they were the first day they were spoken. Many believe these practices are obsolete, or that they no longer work in the modern era. But let me ask you something. Has the human heart changed? Have fear, anxiety, or loneliness disappeared? The answer is clear: no. The invisible still attacks, and that's why invisible protection is still necessary. Modern generations look for answers in self-help books, in passing techniques, in empty promises. But the sages of old had already found a deeper way. Words as a spiritual weapon. Jesus himself said, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." Matthew 24:35. If those words remain, then they still have power today. I want you to visualize this with me. A future in which every morning, every family, every home begins the day with words of protection. A world where, instead of anxiety, there is confidence. Instead of fear, there is peace. Instead of emptiness, there is fullness. That future isn't far away. It's here, in your hands, in your mouth, in your decision to recover the invisible armor God has already prepared for you. Prayer is not a burden. It's not a cold ritual. It is a weapon. It is your shield. It is the key that opens the door to the inner strength and spiritual peace you long for. Now reflect on this. Humanity has always needed protection, from the first man who looked with fear into the darkness, to you, who now look with uncertainty at what the future holds. The world changes, cultures pass, empires fall, but the cry for protection remains intact. And those ancient prayers, those forgotten words, are proof that God never left humanity without a refuge. True defense is not found in stone walls, nor in armies, nor in riches. It is found in the invisible, in the eternal, in the words that leave your mouth and rise to heaven. Today, that shield returns to you. Take it, speak it, live it, and you will never again walk unprotected. Before closing this video, I want to invite you to take a deeper step. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel right now and activate the bell. Do it because here you will continue finding forgotten truths that will transform your life. Share this video with at least 3 people you love, because when you share protection, you share life. And leave me a comment saying, "Today I put on the armor of God and nothing will stop me." I want to read it. I want to pray for you. And I want you to be part of this community of warriors of faith who do not walk alone. Do it now, because the moment to recover your shield is today, not tomorrow. I'll see you in the next video, and may God bless you with all abundance and always protect you and your loved ones. Amen.